Welcome back to the deep dive. Normally, we're wrestling with dense research papers trying to pull out the key
Yeah,
insights.
getting bogged down in methodologies and data tables.
Exactly. But today, we're doing something a bit different. Our source material is, well, it's pure reflection. It's poetry.
Mm-hmm.
We're diving deep into the philosophical structure tucked away inside the lyrics of Alison McLean's song, Paradise is a State of Mind.
And it's surprisingly dense for song lyrics. It's an
Mhm.
incredibly efficient piece of writing, really.
Right.
These lyrics, they aren't just, musical art. They function almost like a user manual, a very concise one, for understanding a specific way of seeing reality.
Yeah, specifically this idea of how our inner state kind of creates our external experience.
Exactly.
So our goal today is really to give you, the listener, a shortcut to understanding the core claims here. We're unpacking this idea that your internal world is fundamentally the architect of what you see around you, your observable reality.
And it hits you with the central claim right away, which is pretty bold, that the world mirrors back to us.
Straight out of the gate.
Yeah. And if that's true, if that's the operating principle, then you immediately have to ask yourself, okay, what am I sending out? What is it reflecting about me right now?
That's the hook. That's what we're pulling on today. Okay, so let's start where the lyrics begin, which is diagnosing the problem. What holds us back? What stops us from getting to that paradise state?
And the poetry's really clear here. It says the chains aren't, external things. The constraint is defined right there in the line. Attachments hold us prisoner.
Attachments. Okay.
Yeah. Which kind of defines freedom negatively, doesn't it? It's
Right.
not about getting stuff. It's about letting go of these internal ties.
So attachments to what exactly? What are we talking about?
Well, it could be anything, really. Attachments to an identity, like I am a successful person, or I am a victim, or maybe attachments to a past win, or a future outcome you desperately want, even needing validation from others. The source suggests that when we do that, when we get attached, we essentially give up our own sovereignty. We're always looking outside ourselves to, confirm the thing we're clinging to.
And that waiting, that looking outside, that's the prison.
That seems to be the idea. And the lyrics then describe the result of being trapped like that in really quite dramatic terms, unsettling even.
Yeah, the line inner violence we preach. That's pretty intense language.
It really is. And notice it's not just that we feel inner violence or suffer from it, we preach it.
What does that imply to preach it?
Well, preach suggests it's active, right? It's something continuous, like we're constantly advocating for this internal
Like
conflict.
defending our right to be angry or resentful.
Exactly. It could manifest as, constant self-justification,
Mm.
judging others all the time, holding on to resentments, always being defensive about our own agitated state.
So it's not just happening to us, it's a sermon we keep delivering to ourselves.
That's the interpretation.
Yeah.
It's a sustained internal message.
Okay, so if that's the internal sermon, how does it show up outside? How does the world reflect that back if that's the message we're broadcasting?
Well, it seems to leak out as projection. If you're constantly preaching inner violence, defending your anger, feeling like a victim, always criticizing the world, acting as that mirror, it tends to supply you with, situations and people that seem to justify that violence.
So it reinforces the narrative.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It confirms your inner sermon. Think about things like chronic road rage or constant friction in relationships or just that feeling that everyone's out to get you.
Okay.
Often those might be the external results of defending that internal conflict. The world is just, in a way, agreeing with your inner state.
Okay, let's dig into this mechanism more, this mirroring, this projection. If the inner violence is the seed, how does it grow into something we actually, see and experience?
Well, the absolute foundational idea of the whole song is laid out right here. The world mirrors back to us as our spirit speaks.
As our spirit speaks, that feels important.
It really elevates your internal state, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's not just private thoughts anymore. It suggests your inner self is somehow cosmically generative.
Generative, like creating things.
In a sense, yes.
Yeah.
That the deepest, truest state of your spirit, your core being, is what sets the fundamental tone, the background music of your reality.
But the lyrics then get more specific. They don't just stop at spirit. They highlight two concrete things the world reflects back. First, our inner peace.
Right.
And second, the conversations of our mind, which suggests there are maybe different layers to this reflection.
Absolutely. That's a great way to put it. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the spirit speaking could be seen as the deep current. the fundamental state of peace or agitation that's set by how we relate to those attachments we talked about.
Okay, the deep current.
So if your spirit is fundamentally at peace, the idea is the world reflects a kind of tranquility, even if there's external chaos happening.
Hmm.
But the conversations of our mind, well, those are maybe more like the surface ripples.
The day-to-day chatter, like worrying about a meeting, getting annoyed in traffic, that negative self-talk loop.
Exactly that constant running dialogue. And the source seems to claim that chatter is the most, let's say, accessible creative force we interact with moment to moment.
Accessible.
Yeah, like it's the thing we're most aware of, usually. And the claim is the tone and the actual content of that internal conversation become the blueprint for how you interpret everything, how you engage with reality.
So if my internal conversation is always about scarcity or like things never working out,
Then the world will tend to deliver experiences that you interpret through that lens. It confirms your skeptical view or your feeling of lack.
wow. Okay, that shifts the responsibility entirely inward, doesn't it? It makes that internal narrative, that chatter, incredibly powerful.
It really does. The world isn't reflecting what you consciously wish for. It's reflecting what you are consistently thinking and feeling and sort of projecting.
It's reflecting the conversation.
Right. And it seems to bypass the conscious ego, almost. You might say you want success, you might consciously desire it, but if the actual conversation of your mind is constantly focused on, I don't know, inadequacy or fear of failure,
Then the mirror picks up on the fear because it's louder or more consistent.
that seems to be the idea. It responds to the stronger, more persistent signal. It becomes this kind of closed-loop system. Your internal state manifests, the world reflects it, which then confirms your internal state, and round it goes.
Okay, so if the inner violence and the negative chatter are the problem and the world just reflects it back, the source must offer a way out, right? A solution.
It does. It moves from diagnosis to prescription.
And what's the immediate power we have? How do we change that reflection? It seems to boil down to two things in the lyrics: attitude and choice.
Yeah, starting with that really radical statement, life is but an attitude.
Life is but an attitude. That little word but feels like it's doing a lot of heavy lifting there.
Massive philosophical work, yeah. It presents attitude as the single dominant factor determining your life experience. It seems to almost negate everything else that, external circumstances, your history, actual bad luck.
Okay, wait a second though. Isn't that incredibly hard to swallow? Saying life is but an attitude. Doesn't that feel a bit dismissive? Like it negates real trauma or genuine hardship, things that are objectively difficult and not just in your head.
That's a really crucial point, and yeah, it can sound that way on the surface. I don't think the philosophy here as presented is saying you should deny pain exists or pretend trauma didn't happen.
Okay.
Instead, it seems to define attitude as your sovereign response to those circumstances.
Yeah.
So you can't control the external event, the what happened. But the claim is you always maintain control over the how you choose to show up for it internally.
So attitude isn't about pretending things are great when they're not.
Not necessarily. It's more about the internal meaning you assign to the event. That meaning then shapes the reflection going forward. It's like accepting the reality of the circumstance, absolutely, but refusing to let that circumstance dictate your fundamental inner state, your core sense of peace or possibility.
Okay, that distinction helps. It's about the response. And then that choice of attitude, that internal stance, is immediately linked to action in the lyrics.
Right. Let our choice be kind.
It connects the internal shift, choosing your attitude, directly to how you engage with the world. Kindness.
Yeah, it creates this necessary feedback loop, doesn't it? If you adopt an attitude of, say, acceptance or inner peace, it naturally leads to kinder actions towards yourself, towards others.
And that kindness then changes the reflection the world sends back.
That's the implied mechanism. Kindness isn't just like being nice for its own sake, although that's good too. In this framework, it becomes a vital part of changing your reality, of adjusting the mirror's reflection. It's part of the manifestation process.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me, though. The lyrics' definition of freedom. It's not about getting something outside of you.
No.
It's about achieving a state of internal release. Freedom is achieved by letting go of our stories.
Letting go of our stories is where our freedom's at. I mean, that's a huge philosophical statement right there.
It is, because it identifies the main thing holding us prisoner, those attachments from earlier, as the narrative itself. The story.
Exactly. So what are these stories? They're the narratives we build, often rigid ones, that we use to define ourselves and our reality. Things like,
I am a victim of my past, or I never get lucky.
people always let me down. Or even positive ones we cling to too tightly, like I must always be the strong one.
Right, and we cling to them, even the painful ones, because why? They feel like identity, security.
Probably a mix of those. They give us a sense of predictability, maybe? Even if it's predicting negative outcomes, letting go feels like stepping into the unknown.
So what does dropping a story actually look like in practice based on this philosophy?
It seems to mean radical non-identification with that past narrative.
Yeah.
So for instance, if your story is, I failed at that last business, therefore I'm just not cut out for success.
Okay.
Letting go means seeing that connection, therefore I am not capable, as just a linguistic construct,
Well,
a sentence you made up, not a physical law of the universe.
so you just stop believing the sentence.
You recognize it as a story, not as ultimate truth.
Yeah.
You drop the self-judgment attached to it, and you choose to act from a different place now. Like from that chosen attitude of capability or willingness to try again, rather than from the identity defined by the past failure story.
So it requires choosing the present, the attitude, the kindness over reinforcing the past identity locked in the story.
That seems to be exactly it. That's where the freedom is apparently found.
Okay, so this path, letting go of attachments, choosing kindness, dropping these limiting stories, it all leads somewhere. It leads to the ultimate synthesis, the destination described in the song. And the lyrics are absolutely clear, totally unequivocal about what that destination is. Paradise isn't a place.
No external location required.
Paradise is directly defined as a state of mind, period.
Yeah, it's the ultimate localization of paradise. It's not on an island. It's not after death. It's not dependent on wealth or circumstance. It exists only internally.
Completely independent of, well, anything external. The weather, politics, your relationships, your bank balance. None of that is the source of paradise.
According to this view, no. If your attitude is aligned, if you've released the stories that cause the inner violence, then by definition, you are in paradise, right here, right now.
It's the natural result of getting your spirit and those conversations of the mind into true alignment.
That seems right. And then the final line offers this wonderful, almost lighthearted instruction.
Yeah, I love this bit.
Let us play in that.
Let us play in that. What does that suggest about inhabiting this paradise state?
Well, it suggests it's not meant to be this grim, serious, constant struggle, or some kind of joyless, ascetic denial. It implies that once you've maybe done the harder work of recognizing and dropping the heavy narratives, maintaining that state of mind, being in paradise, it should feel light. It should feel like play, like a creative, enjoyable way to engage with life, not a burden.
So let's bring it all back together then. Can you recap that whole cycle, the system presented in these lyrics?
Sure. So we start with the identified problem. Attachments hold us prisoner, leading to this inner violence we preach.
Okay.
Then comes the core mechanism. The world mirrors back this inner state, particularly reflecting our peace and our mental conversations, often reinforcing the initial problem.
The loop.
Exactly. The pivot point, the way out, is realizing that freedom isn't external, but internal. It's found by letting go of our stories. This is activated through conscious choice, specifically choosing our attitude, life is but an attitude, and choosing kindness, let our choice be kind.
Right.
And the inevitable result, the destination of making these internal shifts, is arriving at and residing in the paradise state of mind, which is then experienced as a light, playful way of being.
Wow.
It's a profoundly self-contained philosophy, really. It offers a complete internal mechanism for reality transformation, all packed into a few verses. #outro.
It really is a profoundly powerful and, like you said, incredibly concise philosophy to capture in just a song. The core idea feels simple, but actually living it out, that seems revolutionary.
Yeah, the world is just a reflection. And the power to change that reflection lies entirely within you, in your daily, moment-to-moment decisions about attitude, kindness, and the stories you choose to believe.
Simple to say, maybe harder to do.
Definitely. Which brings us to a final thought, maybe a provocation for you, the listener, to take away from this deep dive.
Okay.
If letting go of our stories is truly where our freedom is found, and if paradise is simply the state of mind that results from that release, then what is the single biggest story, or maybe the strongest attachment, that rigid internal narrative you keep defending, keep preaching to yourself, that needs to be dropped right now, today, for you to experience even a little more of that inner peace, that paradise state?
What's the main story you're still telling yourself?
Exactly. What narrative are you still clinging to that keeps the mirror reflecting something you don't want? That's the question to sit with.
That is definitely the question to carry forward. Thank you for engaging with us on this slightly different but really fascinating deep dive into the architecture of consciousness, courtesy of Alison McLean.
Been a pleasure.
We'll catch you next time on the deep dive.